These drums are playful every time they come back around.
It's showtime, folks.
Hey everybody, welcome to Into the Music. I'm Andy. Y'all know your boy John over there, and this is another episode where, brace yourself, we suggest a song to the other in the party, and that person goes and listens to it, reacts, and then we talk about it. It's mind-blowing, revolutionary stuff. John, what have you got for me, sir?
Oh yeah, and just for those who are following the online version as well, you have your origami kits ready to fold along to the song. I have a wonderful tune by a band which I guess you've heard of, probably, called The Breeders.
The Breeders, to me, I don't want this to be misconstrued, but it's just what I think how it was here. They're a bit of what we would call a one-hit wonder. Because I know Cannonball. I mean, that song was unavoidable there for a while.
Yeah.
And it's a good tune. So I mean, I've got nothing against it. So I'm interested to hear what else they have going on as far as their music and discography go. So I'll give it a listen.
Yeah, well,
I don't know anything else by them. So
cool. I thought that might be the case. This track is called Safari.
Okay, cool. I'll give it a listen and circle back with you. These drums are playful every time they come back around in this part of the song. I'm going to take this back just a little bit to listen to them some more. Okay, so I really wanted there to be a lead in that song, like a really good screeching lead. And all we got was a 10-second-ish tease at the end that there might be one, and there never was. So I have beef with the Breeders at this point, which I'm only going to be able to discuss with John. So let's do just that.
So you're back. Was it a case of so far so goody?
It was a case of Safari. This definitely sounds like the Breeders. Like that voice is kind of in mistake. You can't really mistake it for anyone else, right? When you hear it, you're like, I remember it was almost like Cannonball started playing in my head when I first heard the voice. But this was scant as far as lyrics go. And the part that really stood out to me vocally was when it wasn't even words. It was just sort of this auditory sort of sound that the singer was putting out there. And I can't say that like I loved it, but I didn't hate it either. It was just the lyrics weren't something that I was going to latch onto when I listened to this one, right? Like it was just I couldn't. I mean, the sound was beautiful during that harmonization part that I was just talking about, but it wasn't like, I don't know what the motif was or what the theme of the lyrics were, despite it being called Safari. So you're going to have to definitely spackle in some gaps there for me on this wall of understanding I'm trying to build. But I did write down some notes about the music, and oh my God, the song sounded so classic, early mid 90s with just its structure and the way it was played, that distortion that was used. So I said comes in classic 90s rock hard. Then, as a lot of these songs would do, it mellows out into the verse to sort of like usher in what you would think would be the lyrics of the verse. So I didn't really pick up much, as I just mentioned, in that regard. Also, there's almost this like loose, laissez-faire, but kind of playful and fun drumming that's happening during the verses, that I kind of was musically the thing that after the loud guitar kind of shook the room to start things was what captured my attention next. But I have to say, like, this, it's so funny because there's no extent to this you can be. You either are this or you aren't. But this was the most 4/4 time signature song I've ever heard. Like, it was like, what do, and it was very 4/4. So kind of basic and to the point, no real crazy exhibition and in composition or anything like that. But it was good. It was good on the ears. My biggest beef with it was that there was no real lead. Like, I felt like towards the end there was all this hint that there was going to be some like sonic maybe explosion with some guitar work, and it really never came to fruition. So I was left like with like the feeling of like a really good amuse bouche, but no kind of part of the meal thereafter. And I was like, damn, like I wanted that. I thought it was gonna happen, and it didn't. But overall, I would give this like a middle of the road B. It was pretty good. It was good. Just there were a couple parts where I either wanted more or I thought were like a little like they could have invested in a little bit more time into perhaps adding some more to this song that they were constructing. But with a name like Safari, it's like evocative as far as expectations. Like, what is this about? What is this like sort of new frontier or this alien landscape that you're exploring? But I couldn't make, head nor hide of like what was going on in that regard. So if you could connect some dots for your boy here, that would be pretty great.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't know if you're aware of the makeup of the Breeders. This started off as a project between Kim Deal and Tanya Donnelly. Kim Deal was still in the Pixies at the time as the bassist.
I didn't even know this was an offshoot of the Pixies.
Yeah, and she was starting to feel like just a bit player, because she was trying to write songs, and she's lucky if she got one. She got one on Doolittle, Silver, and that's it. So she's a little bit frustrated, and that was amongst many of the tensions between her and Black Francis. So she started this whole project, and Tanya Donnelly was Throne Muses, and so they put this together, got some other people in. They did their first album called Pod in 1990. Of course, I have it on vinyl. It is a stark masterpiece. Again, it's even more understated than this in terms of some of the songs, but it's just amazing. Really, really spoke to me. They do a fantastic, quite frenetic cover of "Happiness Is a Warm Gun," and it's not in any way could you predict what it sounds like. It's really interesting.
Kind of a reinvention of a classic.
Yeah. And of course, the song structure in some of their songs was invented by the Pixies. Loud, quiet, loud, quiet. That's the classic through the late 80s. So that's
and they were definitely a pioneer in the sound that would become almost the first 2/3 of the 90s decade was really based alt rock was that, right?
Yeah.
Loud. Here's some thoughtful, weird introspective lyrics. Loud, and exactly. I loved it at the time. Now it's almost my definition of formulaic rock because I think I was inundated at a.
It's been overdone to death.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this was definitely still at the forefront of it when they put it together. So they knocked
benefit
out.
Of the doubt, then benefit of the doubt if this was an early version of that, right? Like
1992, this EP came out called Safari. I would say it's interesting. They had a online vote. I don't know, what is it, 10 years ago? What's the greatest EP of all time? And You Made Me Realise by My Bloody Valentine came top in the votes. And it's decent, and I've got a copy of it. But this is my favourite EP of all time, without a question. All 4 songs in there are stunning. Interesting. They are of its time, but definitely with nothing else around like it. I would, and the 4th song on this EP is a cover of the Who song, "So Sad About Us," and it's actually better than the original. I think. I mean, it's just incredible. The thing I love about this and their other songs at the time is the dynamics. Kim Deal's voice is, I don't know, what do you want to call it? Turkish delight, prawn dansak, whatever your favorite thing is. But her voice is just amazing. I've said before, I have a thing about female bass players anyway, but her voice in the Pixies and the Breeders is just superb. And yeah, it does something to me anyway. You were mentioning about the drumming on this. I really like the way he's loosey goosey, and then he just kind of kicks it in almost double time for a bit, and then back to sort of just like, yeah, I'm flicking out a few beats. But yeah, so all these things really. When I had this, first time I flipped my wig, and I just absolutely love it. Following on from this, Tanya Donnelly then left. It's a shame I couldn't send you the actual video of them performing this song, because it's really interesting to see, and with Tanya Donnelly in the band as well. It was cool, but it had been blocked. But she left then to form Belly, which is another great early 90s band, and they brought out The Last Splash. Thank you. Of course he's got it. And this was their breakthrough, and critically acclaimed.
That's what
Cannibals on there, and lots of other stuff as well. It's just there's no stinkers on that album. It's just superb.
Now that I think about it, isn't in Cannonball, don't they allude to that name of the album, like Splash? Yeah. Like, yeah. Okay. I thought so. All right.
Yeah, I mean, it's so successful. A few years ago they did a 20 or 25 year, one of the two, anniversary tour where they just played the whole album at gigs, and a lot of bands started doing that. But yeah, it's so well known,
Yeah, for sure.
And a lot of friends of mine that weren't into things like the Pixies or whatever really sort of picked up on this album. It was a huge success in this country. They then sort of lapsed it out. They split in '94. At the time when they were doing this, her twin sister Kelly Deal came in as well, for playing bass for a while, and she was involved in a drugs bust, and there were sort of drugs and alcohol issues throughout the band. Kim Deal's had a fair share of it as well, so they had a hiatus for a while, came back '94, shuffled around members. So 96 till 2003, and then 2008, I think onwards, they're still together with most of the original band members now and still doing it. And that was another reason why she didn't rejoin the Pixies after their sort of reunion tour. She thought, I'm going to go back to the Breeders, where I've got more control and say, and I'm the band leader rather than Black Francis. I mean, it's no doubt that there was a real magic when it was the original Pixies lineup with her in it, and it's sad that she's not in it. But she's done some good stuff for this, and I absolutely love it. Onto the song itself. There is a bit of debate about what it's about, and the sort of consensus is that only she knows. But there are certain inferences. So I'll read the lyrics and then I'll tell you some of the theories. There's not a lot. So he didn't.
How can there be? There's not a lot to
yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of theories though. But, he didn't cry on a safari in over his knees. He couldn't leave a finer life, always hugging the ground and crying out for me. He didn't cry on a safari in over his knees. He couldn't leave the flock he couldn't leave, always hugging the man and crying out for me.
Wait, can you do the first? Can you sing the first, or sing with your dulcet tones, John? Can you recite the first verse again?
I do the whole lot. It doesn't make any difference. It's only like he didn't cry on a safari in over his knees. He couldn't leave a finer life, always hugging the ground and crying out for me. And then he didn't cry on a safari in over his knees. He couldn't leave the flock he couldn't leave, always hugging the man and crying out for me.
It's just like it's about a love interest or and that person not wanting to get out of neutral, essentially, maybe not wanting to leave or follow or like leaving the flock and hugging the ground, and all these sort of like allusions sound like things to like someone being in one place. Ironic that they're on safari doing it, because that's literally like away from where you are or whatever, or where you're from. But yeah, that's interesting. I mean, it sounds like she's judging a male counterpart for their inability to, I don't know who the he is, if it's like a fatherly figure or a brother or like the man, and maybe his job or his career is sort of like being gendered in that way. But yeah, I don't know. That's interesting. Sure.
So I'll read you a couple of just very brief comments about it. This is really interesting. This guy says, this is Mr. Guitarist 91.
Oh, shit. Okay. Somebody better get the chisel out to etch this in stone.
Yeah, of the clan, Mr. Guitarist, and there's 90 others of them, so just watch yourself.
You're right.
It says, okay, when I was younger, dumber, and only 20 or so, I had no idea what this meant. Now that I have about 20 years more life experience, I think I can speculate. Obviously, only Kim knows what this is about. I suspect this is about her ex-husband. I don't think it's any coincidence. The second song on this side of the EP, immediately following this, is the Who's So Sad About Us. I suspect it's about how her marriage fell apart because he couldn't handle the music life and preferred the less risky, finer life of working for the man. He couldn't leave the flock. In other words, he just couldn't give up security to take a chance in her career, I suspect. I suspect and crying out for me was the fact he didn't really like her being out on tour or going off practicing with the Pixies. This is all speculation on my part. And he says, please, Kim, jump in here and correct me if I'm wrong. About chance.
Still holding his breath out there, is he?
I think that's probably the more reasonable. There's some other songs in here, some other things in here, which is, one guy, Festo, who says, Christ if I know what this song is about, but it's my favourite from the Breeders. So thanks for contributing, Festo. I think that's the most reasonable explanation, But yeah, it's obviously
it's as much as we'd love to have fun with that guy's username, the guitar whatever 91 fellow.
Mr. Guitarist 91, I'll have you know.
Sorry, sir. 1,000 apologies. I'll be sure to flagellate later and try to redeem myself. That is kind of where I was. Right? The inability to want to leave, tied down to the idea of convention and the man and career and kind of the status quo or the normative, as opposed to the life she wanted or the dream she had. And that'll definitely throw a spanner in the works of any relationship, right? So
I don't know when they split up, but I always thought it was weird on the first two records, Come on Pilgrim, which is like an EP, and Surfer Rosa, she is credited as Mrs. John Murphy. And then on Doolittle, she becomes Kim Deal. And I thought it was weird anyway that you would do that. Now, I don't know if that's because at the time she was still madly in love with him, or she had just split with him and wanted to just take the piss by having that as a credit. But I always thought that was strange, that was the way she was credited on Surfer Rosa's Mrs. John Murphy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but, that would definitely rub me the wrong way. And if I had a daughter or a sister or a mother who was subject to that sort of archaic, naming convention or nomenclature, it's just like, come on, man. She's a person that's got a name.
Yeah,
there's some shine on that and give her power that she deserves.
Or perhaps she did it deliberately to show, as an ironic, I'm not your property, but kind of doing it in that way,
And if so, I'd eat my words, but I still believe, come on,
it's odd, isn't it? Either way you cut it, it's interesting.
Yep, for sure.
So yeah, okay. Who ends this? I'm joking. I know. I'll wrap this up. Rock, paper, scissors? No. Well, thanks so much for listening to this. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Everybody else out there, if there's some people who like the Breeders, let us know. If you rate this as highly as I did, or if you don't, tell us why. Please drop your comments because we love hearing from you, and it's that interaction that really makes all this worthwhile. Like it if you do like it. Stay quiet if you don't. I'm joking. And subscribe if you haven't already, so you don't miss out on all these gems. That being said, we shall see all of you on the next episode of into the music.